It's official. 2023 was the world's hottest year on record. It's been 47 years since we had a colder than average year here on Earth, meaning the average temperatures across the globe keep on rising. Hi all, my name is Kira and this channel is based on statistics. In this video, you will find out which cities are the safest bets for real estate investments in the face of climate change. In other words, where the impact of climate change be less severe, or better yet, which cities might even benefit from it by attracting more capital and talent as other places become less livable. In Europe, the climate change is knocking on our door and calling for climate-related spending. Floods from intense rainfall are forcing landlords to invest in upgraded roofs and water management systems. Heat waves and record-high temperatures are driving up demand for cooling solutions. Wildfires and even extreme weather events like the tornado in Luxembourg, yes, a tornado right in the middle of continental Europe, are damaging properties and reshaping landscapes. As climate change adds pressure to an already stressed housing market, many people are rethinking where they live and invest, searching for areas that are more climate stable. So, where exactly are they? To answer this, I asked myself, who is making high-stakes, long-term, future-oriented investment decisions that require a deep understanding of the climate risks and infrastructure stability? Who needs these insights now and on a large scale? Who has both the need and the resources to conduct this kind of in-depth analysis? And this is when it hit me. The data center projects. Think about it. AI sector is growing at an unprecedented scale. Global AI revenues are projected to quadruple in the next 5 years. Cloud computing has become increasingly important in the recent years, prompting companies to increase their spending on cloud infrastructure. Overall, we have just so much more data to store. Over a 15-year period, the data consumption has surged by 90 times. Given this explosion in data and the strong demand for the appropriate infrastructure, big players such as Amazon, Facebook, Google, etc. are choosing now where they can place their servers. And choosing a location for a data center is not just about finding space. It's about finding a place where the climate risks are minimal. Too much heat and your cooling costs skyrocket. A risk of flooding is a complete deal breaker. Did you know that the acceptable downtime of the vast majority of the data centers in Europe is just about 96 minutes per year, with the best-in-class facilities aiming for just 26 minutes? The losses and risks associated with the downtime of a data center are just too large. If a data center for a major player goes down, too many people and businesses are affected all at once. So, where do the big players store their data? Because in my opinion, following where they set up their data centers can give us a pretty good indication where they see low climate risks and stable environments for the future. In continental Europe, the leading destination for data centers is London. It is the largest market and the only one with a total power capacity of over 1 gigawatt. Just to give you an idea, 1 gigawatt is enough to power on average 750,000 of households. So we are talking about massive capacity. The second place goes to Frankfurt, which is becoming increasingly popular among investors and is expected to exceed the threshold of 1 gigawatt as soon as next year. The third place is being held proudly by Amsterdam, the city of engineering marvels and bicycles. The fourth place is taken by Paris, and Dublin rounds out the top 5. Together, these cities are known by the acronym FLAP-D, reflecting their status as top hubs for data infrastructure. There are also other up-and-coming players like Milan and Berlin, but today we are sticking to the big 5. This was supposed to be the end of the video, but I started having doubts about how safe are these cities really in the face of climate change. London is at risk from rising sea levels and river flooding. Frankfurt is dealing with heat waves and potential flooding from the main river. Amsterdam Well, it's already 2 meters below sea level. How can it possibly be a safe place? Paris is facing more frequent heat waves and the risk of flooding from the Seine River. And Dublin has increasing threats from coastal flooding and more frequent heavy rainfall events. At first, it seems like no place is safe, but do we have solid data to prove it? Yes, thankfully. The Aspen Climate Project is a massive EU-funded initiative that provides intelligence for policy making across Europe. And they have revealed which areas in Europe are most at risk from the climate change. And we will dive into their findings in a second. But first, let me remind you of the groundbreaking chart that is often used in the climate change context and is necessary to understand the findings of the research. Representative concentration pathways. These are basically the different paths our future might take depending on how much greenhouse gases end up in the atmosphere. If we make strong effort to cut emissions, we could stay on the RCP 2.6 or RCP 4.5 path, limiting global warming to below 2%, which is in line with the Paris Agreement. This would keep things relatively stable. But if we continue as we are now, we are heading towards a much more dangerous path, the RCP 4.5 path. And this is exactly the future the research team has explored and produced this fantastic map. This map shows the aggregated climate risks all across Europe. Here are two key takeaways. First, southern countries are under higher environmental risks than northern countries. Second, coastal areas are particularly vulnerable. For example, south of Spain, south of Italy, south of UK, south of Croatia, as well as coastal areas of France, Romania and Croatia are under, quote, very high risk. Apart from investigating the aggregated climate risks you have just seen, the research team went a step further and visualized the country's individual vulnerability and exposure, showing how the same hazard can affect different countries in very different ways. Similar to how a flu can hit some people harder than the others depending on their health, countries with stronger environmental policies and better infrastructure are better equipped to handle climate risks. This map shows the areas that are exposed to heat stress, wildfires and droughts. As you can see, taking into account country-specific vulnerability, pretty much half of Portugal, south of Spain, south of Italy, Romania, Bulgaria and Greece are suffering a lot from the heat. Meanwhile, some parts of Austria, as well as northern countries like Norway and Iceland, are doing just fine. Now let's examine the flood risk. It can be coastal flooding, river flooding, or flash floods from heavy rains. In our do-nothing scenario, Western Ireland, part of Sweden and of course the Netherlands are not looking good. The Czech Republic and Poland are also at risk. In fact, while writing this report, there was a flood alert and extreme weather warnings issued in those regions, caused by Cyclone Boris. Countries like Slovakia, Hungary and Romania are also under threat. Finally, let's have a closer look at each of our key data center hotspots, starting with London. Heat stress here ranges from low to medium, which is actually pretty good for such a financially important hub. Flood risk varies, with areas like Camden, City of London and Ealing doing better than more vulnerable regions like Lewisham and Southwark. Frankfurt. Like much of all Germany, Frankfurt experiences medium heat stress. At the same time, it faces a high risk of river flooding, unsurprisingly so, given that it's Frankfurt on the main river. Next is Amsterdam. Despite being 2 meters below sea level, it's classified as medium risk for both heat stress and flooding. The Dutch are true masters of water management, which helps keep things under control. Paris. Heat stress here is medium, but the city is slightly better off than some of its neighboring areas. Flood risks from the Seine are also medium, with Paris doing better than surrounding regions like Hauts-de-Seine and Val-de-Marne. Lastly, Dublin. It enjoys low heat stress but is at high risk for river floods, especially in low-lying areas. As we approach the end of the video, let's connect the dots. The climate change is very real, and we are already starting to see its effects. The location of data centers in Europe offers some clues about which areas might remain more stable in the future. If the top companies are betting on certain cities, maybe we should be paying attention too. Next, official research suggests that southern countries are hit harder than northern ones, with coastal regions particularly at risk. But at the end of the day, it's not just about having the best climate, it's also about how well our cities are prepared to face the risks that are coming at us. I personally think that we will be seeing a redistribution of wealth, with more climate-stable areas becoming more prestigious compared to the rest. And furthermore, I would also expect to see the population shifts as people naturally seek safety and stability to settle down. And what do you think about it? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!